About the data that you have to look at today. Seems like that'd be right in your wheelhouse to be able to take that information because of your background and interpret it and apply it.
Yes and no. I think it's in everybody's wheelhouse now because everybody has a computer, everybody has an iPhone, everybody has some kind of technology that gives them the ability to do those types of things. So reading a computer 10 years ago when I was in college, or 15 years ago, whatever it was one thing. But now everybody kind of really has that technology. That, I mean, everybody is an engineer of sorts and can read that data. So I'd say it caught up to me.
I think something that's really interesting is old Boyer, dirt track racer. You're like, how do you bring me his data? You know, you guys have all these tools.
Oh, he heard some other drivers say that. He doesn't know. He doesn't even have a clue.
Serious. He wanted to see
Nah, I don't think so.
He wanted to see the data. You can compare.
You can compare. It makes a difference.
Sure,
and we do a lot. It's very similar. What you have on the computer data is very similar to what we do with the dartfish, where you can compare and overlap cars. I've seen you guys have done it with qualifying and stuff, and that makes a difference when you can figure out where a guy's arcing a car in, and if he's carrying more throttle and things like that to make a difference in the qualifying.
Are you a little surprised that we've had 6 different winners already at this point? Do you think that trend is going to continue, or?
I hope it does, because I haven't won yet.
I set you up on that one.
I'm not surprised. Our sport is the most competitive. I mean, I've been a part of it for 12 years, so it's the most competitive I've ever seen it, with the quantity of teams and organizations out there, which is smaller than it ever has been, but it's more competitive than it ever has been. You know, you've got the powerhouses now. That's really all there is left, is the powerhouses. And I mean, we're sitting down in competition meetings at Richard Childress Racing in our affiliates with 7 drivers, and that's a sixth of the cars that are out there. So it's very competitive.
When you go into a meeting and you say, well, this is the way we did it at Stuart Haas, and that information is information we got from Henry, that's got to be helpful to your team now to have something to compare to. Isn't that a fair?
It does. You have to be careful how much of that input you give too, because you don't want to derail somebody that's been going down this path for a while. So it's good to have input that maybe somebody hadn't thought of yet. But or maybe you could do a better job at it. But that's not to say that that's the way we used to do it, or that's the way I used to do it. It's maybe like, hey, let's think about doing it this way. That's maybe the better approach.
Paul's car's been real solid week in and week out as well. Austin's up in the points too, so it's been a good start to the season for you guys.
All the RCR cars have been running well, and like I said, we had a tire failure at Bristol, had a tire failure at California, had a sensor melt at Martinsville last weekend, and really made it really difficult to drive, and still finished 20th, which I'm not proud of, but it was really difficult to drive. So we're doing good. We've been performing better than we finished. We just need to finish better than we have.
Darrell pointed out you have to win on all tracks to be a champion, but the 1.5 miles, because that's the most that you run on across the course of the season. Is there a different approach for you, certain kind of game planning in some of those strategy meetings?
You know, it is the backbone of a lot of what we do, and it's really the backbone of the chase. But you have to perform well at all of them. Yep. I mean, it's no different than giving yourself an opportunity to be in the chase at a short track. So they are so different now because of the tires and the cars and the asphalt, the 1.5 miles. So, and I told somebody in my hospitalities earlier, you fly over Vegas and Charlotte and Atlanta and Texas, and from the sky they look the same, but they are so different that I mean, and the setups might be somewhat similar, but the aggregate and the asphalt can be so much different in Texas than it is in Vegas or California, or Charlotte, that can change everything. The tires are such a big part of it.
Does a driver like you, who's been around for 12 years, do you target certain, especially now with this new format of win and you're pretty much in the chase, do you look at certain tracks and say, I know I run well there, this is the one that's going to put me in?
I always target the next track. You know what it's like, right?
Oh, yeah, no, but I was going to...
What track you want to win at next weekend?
I was curious about something. When you say, if I say, what are you really good at? I mean, what is your specialty?
What is my specialty?
When it comes to the racing, not other things, but when it comes to racing,
he's a pretty good fisherman.
Yeah. Well, I think
what do you really,
me as a driver, diagnosing the kind of the race car and what I need to feel, and doing it in the language that the guys understand, so that I can get what I need, so that the next time I go out, we've made a beneficial change. That's
do you like the strategy, 1.5 mile type, where there's a little more involved with?
Most of these 1.5 mile tracks now, we're running out of tires. So, like California, even the 2 mile track, we're sitting there, trying to figure out this biggest strategy is who can have a set of tires left at the end of the race. last year at Texas. We saw it last year, especially at Homestead, which is the same left side tire as here. So I think that there's a whole lot of different strategies when you get to these mile-and-a-half tracks versus the short tracks. You get to a place like Loudon, and you might go through 4 sets of tires. Phoenix, you might go through 4 sets of tires, but here we're going to use every tire we got.
Especially when we start.
And want more.
Yeah, especially
well, last week we used up tires too.
Yeah.
Especially when you start this race with a green track. Does that change how you look at the race? You know it's going to get different as time goes forward. Do you and Luke sit down and say, let's plan for the second half of this baby, or how's that work?
Well, we planned yesterday as if it was going to race today, and then we still might race today, but it might be totally different conditions than what we anticipated. So you'll tape the grill differently, which changes the downforce, and you might change your air pressures a little bit, especially for the first run, because you're going to travel a little bit more, because the track's going to be the fastest as it is all night if we get to race tonight. So yeah, we won't do that until they say let's bring the cars out to the line, that type of thing. So, but yeah, there's a different mentality for it, and right now, I mean, we have a guaranteed mandatory caution at lap 30, so it's really about managing your tires to get to lap 30, because when we see the nationwide cars having problems with right rears, more often than not, the right front tires are concerned for a cup car. So we have to make sure that we can have a good first run, keep the tires underneath it, and then get the feedback for what the car and the tires are doing, so that we know how hard to push the car in the second run.
Yeah, don't get lapped by that. You don't want to get lapped in that 30-lap window. That's the main thing
right there. Thanks for coming by, spending some time with us.
Thank you.
And waiting it out, there is Ryan Newman, and in a holding pattern with all of us, drying the track, hoping the rain avoids the Texas Motor Speedway. You're watching NASCAR on Fox. We're live from the